The rain drummed against the hospital windows as William sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, his hands clasped tightly together. 3 months had passed since the accident, and every day felt like a lifetime. The doctors had said Kate might never wake up, but William refused to believe them. He came here every morning at 8 sharp, sat beside her bed and talked to her as if she could hear every word. Kate lay still on the white hospital bed, machines beeping softly around her. Her brown hair spread across the pillow like silk, and her face looked peaceful, almost as if she was just sleeping. William reached out and touched her hand gently. It was warm, which always gave him hope. The nurses had told him that touching and talking to patients in comas could help, so he never stopped trying. "Good morning, beautiful," he whispered, just like he used to when they woke up together in their small apartment. "I brought you fresh flowers today. Yellow roses, your favorites. Mrs. Chen from the flower shop down the street always asks about you. She says she's praying for you to come back to us." William had met Kate 3 years ago at a coffee shop near the university. She was studying to be a teacher, and he was working on his engineering degree. Kate had accidentally spilled coffee on his textbook, and instead of being angry, he had laughed. She had the most beautiful laugh he had ever heard, like music that made everything better. They spent the rest of that afternoon talking, and William knew right then that she was the person he wanted to spend his life with. Their love story was simple but perfect. Weekend picnics in the park, movie nights on their old couch, cooking dinner together in their tiny kitchen. Kate loved to dance while she cooked, spinning around with a wooden spoon in her hand like it was a microphone. William would watch her from the doorway, amazed that someone so wonderful had chosen to love him back. They had been planning their wedding when the accident happened. Kate was driving home from her job at the elementary school where she taught 2nd grade. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit her car on the passenger side. William got the call while he was at work, and his world stopped spinning. He rushed to the hospital, still wearing his work clothes, his heart breaking with each step. Now sitting beside her bed, William pulled out a small notebook. He had been writing letters to Kate every day, telling her about his life, about the people who missed her, about their future together. The doctor said that familiar voices and stories might help reach her, wherever she was in her mind. "Your students made you cards," he said, opening the notebook. "Little Emma drew a picture of you with rainbow hair. She wrote that she misses your funny stories and the way you make math seem easy. Tommy asked his mom when you're coming back because nobody else explains things the way you do." William's voice cracked a little as he read. Kate had always been amazing with children. She had this special way of making every child feel important and smart. The principal at her school called every week to check on her, and her classroom remained exactly as she had left it, waiting for her return. Outside the hospital room, life continued. William's friends and family worried about him because he spent every free moment at Kate's bedside. His mother brought him meals, knowing he often forgot to eat. His best friend Marcus tried to convince him to take breaks, to go home and sleep in his own bed instead of the hospital chair. But William couldn't leave. What if Kate woke up and he wasn't there? What if she needed him and he was gone? The hardest part was the silence. Kate had always been a talker, filling their apartment with stories about her day, her dreams, her silly thoughts about everything and nothing. She would narrate cooking shows while making breakfast, sing off-key in the shower, and read out loud from books that made her laugh. Now the silence felt heavy, like a weight pressing down on William's chest. Dr. Martinez, Kate's main doctor, was kind but honest. She had explained that Kate's brain injury was severe, and while her body was healing, there was no way to know if or when she might wake up. Some patients woke up after weeks, others after months, and some never woke up at all. William understood the science, but his heart refused to accept it. "I know you can hear me," William said softly, squeezing Kate's hand. "I know you're fighting to come back. Take all the time you need, okay? I'll be right here waiting. I'll always be right here." As the afternoon sun streamed through the hospital window, William opened the wedding planning book they had been working on together. They had chosen a small church ceremony with their closest friends and family. Kate had found the perfect dress at a little shop downtown, simple and elegant, just like her. William had secretly bought the engagement ring she had admired in a jewelry store window, planning to propose on her birthday next month. "We can plan everything again when you wake up," he said, flipping through pages of cake designs and flower arrangements. "Maybe you'll want something different. Maybe you'll want a big celebration instead. Whatever makes you happy, Kate. All I want is to marry you and spend the rest of my life making you laugh." The day shift nurses were changing, and William recognized Sarah, the evening nurse who had become like family to him. She always checked on him as much as she checked on Kate, bringing him coffee and making sure he ate the meals his mother brought. "Any changes today?" Sarah asked gently, checking Kate's monitors. William shook his head but smiled. "Not yet, but I have a good feeling. She moved her finger yesterday just a little. Dr. Martinez said it might have been a reflex, but I think she's trying to tell me she's still in there." Sarah nodded encouragingly. She had seen many families go through this, and she admired William's dedication. Some people gave up after weeks, but William's love for Kate seemed to grow stronger each day, not weaker. As evening settled over the hospital, William pulled his chair closer to Kate's bed. Tomorrow would be another day of hoping, another day of believing that love could bring her back to him. He kissed her forehead gently and settled in for another night of keeping watch over the woman who held his heart. 3 weeks later, William noticed something different about Kate's breathing. It seemed deeper, more natural, like she was truly sleeping instead of lost in some distant place. He mentioned it to Dr. Martinez during her morning rounds, but she cautioned him not to read too much into small changes. Still, William felt a spark of hope that he hadn't felt in weeks. The hospital had become William's second home. He knew every nurse by name, every doctor's schedule, and exactly which vending machine had the best coffee. His engineering firm had given him extended leave, understanding that he needed to be with Kate. His co-workers had set up a fund to help with medical expenses, and his desk remained covered with get-well cards for Kate from people who had never even met her but had heard their story. William's daily routine never changed. He arrived at 8 in the morning with fresh flowers and coffee from Kate's favorite cafe down the street. He would spend the morning reading to her from the romance novel she loved, even though he had never understood why she enjoyed stories about cowboys and mysterious strangers. In the afternoons, he would play her favorite music on his phone, songs that used to make her dance around their apartment kitchen. "Remember our first dance?" William asked, holding her hand as a soft melody played. "It was at your friend Sarah's wedding. You said you couldn't dance, but you were perfect. We swayed to that old Elvis song and you laughed when I stepped on your dress. I knew that night that I wanted to dance with you for the rest of my life." Kate's friend Sarah visited every Tuesday evening. She would bring stories from their college days, reminding Kate about spring break trips and late-night study sessions. Sarah had been Kate's maid of honor when they got engaged, and she insisted the wedding would happen exactly as planned, just a little later than expected. Sarah's optimism helped William through the darkest moments when doubt crept into his mind. The children from Kate's classroom had made a giant banner that hung in the hallway outside her room. It read, "Get well soon, Miss Kate," in colorful letters with drawings of flowers, rainbows, and stick figures holding hands. William would describe each drawing to Kate in detail, telling her how much her students missed her stories and her way of making learning fun. Tommy finally learned his multiplication tables, William reported during one afternoon visit. "Mrs. Henderson, the substitute teacher, says he keeps asking when you're coming back to check his work. He wants you to see how much he's improved. Emma has been reading chapter books now, just like you encouraged her to do. She wants to read one to you when you wake up." Dr. Martinez had become more than just Kate's doctor. She had become William's source of strength during the most difficult days. She never gave false hope, but she also never told him to give up. She explained that the brain was mysterious, that healing happened in ways science couldn't always predict or understand. Some patients showed no signs of improvement for months, then suddenly opened their eyes one morning, as if they had simply been taking a long nap. William's mother, Elena, visited every Sunday with homemade soup and stories about the neighborhood. She would update Kate on Mrs. Rodriguez's new garden, the cute puppies that the family next door had adopted, and the progress on the community center renovation that Kate had been excited about. Elena treated Kate like the daughter she had always wanted, talking to her about everything from family recipes to television shows. "Your mother called again," Elena told Kate during one visit. "She's planning to fly in from Portland next month. She wanted me to tell you that your father has been building that bookshelf you designed for him. He says he's saving the last shelf for you to help him finish when you come home." The nights were the hardest for William. When the hospital grew quiet and most visitors had gone home, he would sit in the dim light beside Kate's bed and imagine their conversations. He would tell her about his fears, his dreams, and how much he needed her to come back to him. Sometimes he would cry quietly, letting out the pain he kept hidden during the day when others were around. "I don't know how to do this without you," he whispered one particularly difficult evening. "You're the strong one, Kate. You're the one who believes in happy endings and thinks everything will work out. I'm just the guy who fixes things, but I can't fix this. I can't fix you, and it's killing me." Physical therapy had become part of Kate's daily routine even though she couldn't participate. The therapists would move her arms and legs, keeping her muscles from weakening too much. They assured William that this would help her recovery when she woke up, not if she woke up. William appreciated their confidence even when his own faith wavered. Marcus, William's best friend since childhood, stopped by every Friday after work. He would bring pizza and try to convince William to go home for a real shower and a good night's sleep. Marcus had been supposed to be William's best man, and he still insisted he would give the greatest wedding speech ever written when the time came. "You know Kate would be furious if she knew you weren't taking care of yourself," Marcus said during one visit. "She'd probably wake up just to lecture you about eating hospital vending machine food and sleeping in that uncomfortable chair." William laughed for the first time in weeks at that comment, because it was absolutely true. Kate had always fussed over him, making sure he ate vegetables and got enough sleep. She would leave little notes in his lunch reminding him to drink water and take breaks from his computer screen. The engagement ring William had bought sat in a small box in his apartment, waiting for the right moment. He had planned to propose on Kate's birthday with a picnic in the park, where they had their first date. Instead, her birthday had been spent in the hospital, with William singing happy birthday softly to her still form while holding a cupcake with a single candle. As autumn turned to winter, William noticed that he had stopped counting the days since the accident. Time seemed to move differently in the hospital, measured not by clocks but by small moments of hope and periods of despair. Kate's condition remained stable, which the doctor said was positive, but William longed for more than stability. He wanted his Kate back, with her bright smile and infectious laugh. Late one evening, as William was reading Kate's favorite book aloud, he thought he saw her eyelids flutter. He stopped reading and watched her face carefully, but nothing happened. Still, he made a note in his journal, adding it to other small signs he had recorded over the weeks. A slight movement of her hand, a change in her breathing, moments when he felt sure she was trying to communicate. "I saw you trying to wake up tonight," he told her softly. "Take your time, sweetheart. I'll be here whenever you're ready to open your eyes and see me again." Winter brought a different kind of quiet to the hospital. Snow covered the windows, and the hall seemed more peaceful somehow. William had been at Kate's side for nearly 6 months now, and the staff treated him like part of the family. He had his own coffee mug in the break room and knew which nurses were getting married, divorced, or having babies. The routine had become second nature, but William never let it become boring or meaningless. Every day he brought something new to share with Kate. Sometimes it was a funny story from work, sometimes a memory from their past, and sometimes just observations about the world outside her window. He had learned that consistency mattered, that his voice and presence might be the anchor keeping her connected to the world she needed to return to. "The snow is beautiful today," William said, pulling back the curtains to let more light into the room. "Remember last winter when we built that terrible snowman in the courtyard of our apartment building?" His head kept falling off, and we used my scarf to hold it on. "Mrs. Peterson from apartment 3B made us hot chocolate and said it was the ugliest snowman she'd ever seen, but she loved it anyway." Kate's vital signs had remained stable for months, which Dr. Martinez continued to say was encouraging. Her brain scans showed activity, proving that somewhere inside Kate was still there. William held on to this knowledge like a lifeline, especially during the moments when despair threatened to overwhelm him. The wedding dress still hung in their bedroom closet, covered in plastic and waiting. William had considered moving it, but something about seeing it there each morning gave him strength. It represented their future, their dreams, everything they were working toward together. Sarah had offered to move it for him, worried it might be too painful, but William insisted it stay exactly where Kate had left it. William's relationship with Kate's parents had grown stronger through their shared vigil. Her father, Robert, flew in from Portland every month to spend a week at the hospital. He was a quiet man who showed love through action rather than words. and he spent hours reading newspapers to Kate and updating her on current events. He insisted she needed to know what was happening in the world so she wouldn't feel lost when she woke up. The city council finally approved the new park you were excited about, Robert reported during his latest visit. Construction starts in the spring. They're going to have a playground designed specifically for children with disabilities, just like you suggested in your letter to the mayor. You're going to love seeing it when it's finished. Kate's mother, Linda, called every evening at exactly 7 o'clock. William would hold the phone near Kate's ear while Linda shared her day, told family stories, and promised that everyone was waiting for her to come home. Linda's voice was always strong during these calls, but William knew she cried after hanging up. Just like he did, the physical therapist, Maria, had become one of William's favorite people at the hospital. She worked with Kate's body as if she was fully conscious, talking to her throughout the sessions and explaining each exercise. Maria insisted that Kate could hear and feel everything, and her positive attitude was infectious. "Today we're working on flexibility," Maria announced cheerfully as she began moving Kate's arms in careful stretches. "I bet you can't wait to dance again, Kate. William tells me you love to dance while cooking. My grandmother used to do the same thing. She said food tastes better when you're happy while making it." William had started a photo journal, taking pictures of Kate's room as the seasons changed, of the gifts and cards that continued to arrive, of the small improvements he noticed each day. He wanted Kate to see how many people had been supporting her recovery when she woke up. The wall beside her bed was covered with photographs of friends, family, and students, creating a gallery of love that surrounded her. The hardest days were the ones when doubt crept in, usually late at night when the hospital grew quiet and William's thoughts turned dark. He would wonder if he was being selfish, keeping vigil when Kate might prefer to let go. He would question whether his daily visits were helping her or just helping him cope with his own grief and fear. During one particularly difficult night, William called his father, a man of few words but deep wisdom. His father listened to William's fears and doubts without judgment, then offered simple but powerful advice. "Love isn't selfish, son," his father said quietly. "You're not holding her back. You're holding her up. There's a difference, and she knows it wherever she is right now." The children from Kate's class had started a tradition of sending weekly updates through their substitute teacher. They drew pictures, wrote letters, and shared stories about their progress. William would read each one aloud to Kate, describing the artwork in detail and celebrating each child's achievements as if Kate could respond. "Jackson learned to read the word friendship today," William reported. "He drew a picture of you and him reading together under a tree. He wrote that you're his best teacher friend, and he's saving his reading progress chart to show you. The substitute teacher says he's been working extra hard because he wants to surprise you." Dr. Martinez had started including William in medical discussions more formally, recognizing that his constant presence and detailed observations provided valuable insights into Kate's condition. William had learned medical terminology and could discuss her care with an understanding that impressed the entire medical team. "I've been thinking about getting a dog," William told Kate one afternoon. "Remember how we talked about adopting that golden retriever from the shelter? We said we'd wait until after the wedding, but maybe we should do it sooner. Dogs are supposed to be good therapy for people recovering from brain injuries. Plus, I think you'd love having a furry friend to help you get better." The idea of the dog actually excited William more than he had expected. It would give him something positive to focus on, a way to prepare for Kate's recovery rather than just waiting for it. He mentioned the idea to Dr. Martinez, who thought it was excellent, and offered to connect him with therapy dog organizations. Spring was approaching, and William could see signs of new life beginning outside Kate's window. The bare tree branches were showing tiny buds, and the snow was melting into patches of brown grass. Change was coming, and William felt ready for it in a way he hadn't felt since the accident. 6 months tomorrow," William said softly, holding Kate's hand as evening settled over the hospital. 6 months since you've opened your eyes and looked at me. I know you're working hard in there, fighting to come back. I can feel it sometimes, like you're right on the edge of waking up. When you're ready, I'll be here. I'll always be here, Kate. That's a promise I'll never break." The nurses had stopped asking William when he was going home for the night, because they knew the answer. Home was wherever Kate was, and until she could come home with him, he would stay exactly where he belonged, right beside the woman he loved more than life itself. The morning of March 15th started like any other morning for William. He arrived at the hospital at 8 o'clock sharp, carrying yellow roses and a cup of Kate's favorite chai latte from the coffee shop. The familiar routine of greeting the nurses, checking Kate's chart, and settling into his chair beside her bed had become as natural as breathing. But something felt different that day, though William couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. Kate looked peaceful as always, her brown hair spread across the white pillow, her face serene in the morning light streaming through the window. William arranged the fresh roses in the vase, replacing the ones from the day before, and began his usual morning conversation. "Good morning, beautiful," he said softly, taking her hand in his. "It's a gorgeous day outside. The trees are starting to get their leaves back, and I saw the first daffodils blooming in the hospital garden. Spring is really here now, Kate. Your favorite season." As William settled in to read from the latest romance novel he had picked up from the hospital gift shop, he noticed that Kate's breathing seemed different somehow. It was still steady and strong, but there was a quality to it that made him pay closer attention. He mentioned it to Sarah when she came in to check Kate's monitors. "Her oxygen levels are excellent," Sarah confirmed, but she too seemed to notice something in Kate's demeanor that was hard to define. "Sometimes patients go through changes we can't measure with machines. Trust your instincts, William. You know her better than anyone." The afternoon brought visits from Kate's father and her friend Sarah from college. They had driven down together from Portland, and William was grateful for their company. Robert sat beside Kate's bed and read her articles from the newspaper about the new park that was being built, while Sarah painted Kate's nails a soft pink color, chatting about their old roommate who had just gotten engaged. "Emily wants you to be in her wedding," Sarah told Kate while carefully applying the nail polish. "She's planning it for next fall, and she absolutely insists you'll be there. She said she won't walk down the aisle without her favorite college friend standing beside her. I told her you wouldn't miss it for the world." Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Dr. Martinez stopped by for her daily check. She spent longer than usual examining Kate, testing reflexes and checking responses that William had learned to watch for over the months. There was something in the doctor's expression that made William's heart beat faster. "I want to try something different today," Dr. Martinez said carefully. "Kate's brain activity has been showing some interesting patterns lately. I'd like to see how she responds to some stronger stimuli." William watched nervously as Dr. Martinez used a small light to check Kate's pupils, then applied gentle pressure to different points on her hands and feet. Kate's body didn't react in any obvious way, but William thought he saw something subtle in her face, a tiny change that might have been nothing or might have been everything. "Kate," Dr. Martinez said in a clear, firm voice. "Kate, if you can hear me, try to squeeze William's hand." William held his breath and watched Kate's face intently. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, so softly that he almost missed it, he felt the faintest pressure from her fingers. It was barely there, lighter than a whisper, but it was real. "Did you feel that?" William asked urgently, looking at Dr. Martinez with wide eyes. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly, a small smile beginning to form on her face. "I think I did. Let's try again. Kate, squeeze William's hand if you can hear us." This time the pressure was unmistakable. Kate's fingers tightened around William's hand for just a moment before relaxing again. William felt tears spring to his eyes as 7 months of hope and faith suddenly felt justified. "She's in there," William whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "She's really in there trying to come back to us." Dr. Martinez called for additional tests, and soon Kate's room was filled with medical equipment and specialists. William refused to leave her side, holding her hand and talking to her continuously as doctors and nurses worked around them. Kate's father and Sarah stood nearby, tears streaming down their faces as they witnessed the first real sign of improvement since the accident. "That's it, sweetheart," William encouraged softly. "Keep fighting. Keep trying to come back to me. You're doing so well, Kate. I'm so proud of you." Over the next few hours, Kate began to show more small signs of responsiveness. Her eyelids fluttered occasionally, and she seemed to turn her head slightly toward William's voice. The medical team was cautiously optimistic, explaining that these could be the first signs of Kate beginning to emerge from her coma. "We need to be patient," Dr. Martinez cautioned, though her own excitement was evident. This could be the beginning of Kate's recovery, but it might take days or even weeks for her to fully wake up. Brain injuries heal in their own time, and we can't rush the process. William didn't care how long it took. The fact that Kate was responding at all felt like a miracle. He called his parents, Kate's mother and Marcus, with the news, and soon the hospital waiting room was filled with friends and family who had been praying for this moment for months. As evening approached, William sat closer to Kate's bed than ever before, watching her face for any sign of movement. The room was dimmer now, with just the soft glow of the medical monitors and a small bedside lamp. Kate's breathing had changed again, becoming deeper and more natural, as if she was transitioning from the deep unconsciousness of coma to something closer to regular sleep. "I bought a dog," William told Kate softly, stroking her hand gently. "A golden retriever puppy named Hope. She's staying with my parents until you come home, but I think you're going to love her. She's got the biggest brown eyes, just like yours, and she's already learned to sit and shake hands. I figured we could train her together when you're feeling better." Around midnight, when most of the visitors had gone home and the hospital had settled into its quiet night rhythm, William noticed Kate's breathing pattern change again. He leaned closer, watching her face in the dim light, and whispered her name softly. "Kate? Can you hear me, sweetheart?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, Kate's eyelids began to flutter. William's heart raced as he watched her face, hardly daring to breathe. Her lips moved slightly as if she was trying to speak, though no sound came out. "Take your time," William said gently, tears streaming down his face. "Don't try to do too much at once. Just let yourself wake up slowly." Kate's eyelids fluttered again, more strongly this time, and William caught a glimpse of brown eyes that he hadn't seen in 7 months. They were unfocused and confused, but they were open and they were looking around the room as if trying to understand where she was. "That's it, Kate," William encouraged, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're in the hospital, but you're safe. You had an accident, but you're going to be okay. I'm right here with you. I never left." Kate's eyes moved toward the sound of his voice, and for just a moment their gazes met. William saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes before they closed again, but it was enough. Kate was coming back to him, one small moment at a time, and William knew that the hardest part of their journey was finally behind them. The next morning brought a flurry of activity to Kate's hospital room. Word had spread quickly through the medical staff that she was beginning to wake up, and Dr. Martinez arrived early with a team of specialists. William had barely slept, too excited and nervous to close his eyes for more than a few minutes at a time. Kate's eyes had opened several more times during the night, each episode lasting a little longer than the last. She still seemed confused and disoriented, which Dr. Martinez explained was completely normal for someone emerging from a long coma. Her brain needed time to reconnect all the pathways that controlled consciousness, memory, and speech. "Kate," Dr. Martinez said gently, leaning over the bed. "I'm Dr. Martinez. You're in the hospital and you're safe. Can you try to open your eyes for me?" William held his breath as Kate's eyelids fluttered and then slowly opened. Her brown eyes were clearer than they had been the night before, and she seemed to be trying to focus on the doctor's face. Her lips moved slightly as if she was attempting to speak, but no sound emerged. "Don't try to talk yet," Dr. Martinez advised kindly. "Your throat might be sore and your voice will come back gradually. Just concentrate on staying awake and looking around. You're doing wonderfully." William reached for Kate's hand, and this time her fingers immediately curled around his. The strength of her grip was weak, but it was intentional and responsive. When Kate turned her head toward him, William felt his heart soar. "Hi, sweetheart," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I've missed you so much. You've been asleep for a long time, but you're back now. Everything's going to be okay." Kate's eyes studied his face intently as if she was trying to place him in her memory. William could see her struggling to understand what was happening, where she was and why she felt so weak and confused. The doctors had warned him that memory loss was common after traumatic brain injuries, and he prepared himself for the possibility that Kate might not remember him immediately. But then Kate's lips moved again, and this time, a tiny whisper emerged. It was barely audible, just a breath of sound, but William clearly heard her say his name. William. The single word hit him like a physical blow. She remembered him. After 7 months of silence, Kate had spoken his name, and it was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. William brought her hand to his lips and kissed her fingers gently. "Yes, it's me," he confirmed, his voice shaking with emotion. "I'm right here, Kate. I never left you. Not for a single day." Over the next few hours, Kate drifted in and out of consciousness, but each time she woke up, She seemed a little more alert and aware of her surroundings. Dr. Martinez explained that this was exactly what they hoped to see, a gradual return to consciousness rather than a sudden awakening that might be too overwhelming for her brain to handle. Kate's parents arrived that afternoon, having taken the first flight from Portland when William called with the news. Linda rushed to her daughter's bedside, tears streaming down her face while Robert stood quietly behind her, his own eyes bright with unshed tears. "Kate, baby, it's Mom," Linda said softly, taking Kate's other hand. "Dad and I are here. We've been waiting for you to wake up, and we're so happy you're back." Kate's eyes moved toward her mother's voice, and William saw a spark of recognition there. Kate tried to speak again, managing to whisper "Mom" in a voice that was barely there but unmistakably real. The medical team was amazed by Kate's progress. Dr. Martinez had seen many patients emerge from comas, but Kate's responses were remarkably strong for someone who had been unconscious for so long. They scheduled a series of tests to assess her cognitive function, motor skills, and memory, but the initial signs were very encouraging. Sarah arrived that evening with a bouquet of flowers from Kate's students and colleagues at the elementary school. When she saw Kate's eyes open and track her movement across the room, Sarah burst into happy tears. "Look who decided to join the party," Sarah said with forced cheer, though her voice was thick with emotion. "Your students have been making cards for you every week. They're going to be so excited when they hear you're awake." Kate managed to smile weakly at Sarah, though the effort seemed to exhaust her. Dr. Martinez explained that fatigue was normal during the early stages of recovery, and that Kate would need plenty of rest between periods of wakefulness. As the day progressed, Kate began to stay awake for longer periods. She was able to squeeze hands on command, track objects with her eyes, and even attempt to nod yes or no to simple questions. Her voice was still barely a whisper, but she managed to say a few more words, including tired, water, and most importantly, love you, when William told her how much he had missed her. The physical therapist, Maria, was thrilled when she arrived for Kate's session and found her awake. "Welcome back, Kate," she said warmly. "We've been keeping your body strong while you were resting. Now we can start working together to get you moving again." Kate's eyes widened slightly when Maria began moving her arms and legs, as if she was surprised by how weak she felt. William quickly moved closer to reassure her. "You've been asleep for 7 months," he explained gently. "Your muscles got weak from not being used, but Maria is going to help you get strong again. Take your time and don't worry about anything except getting better." That evening, when most of the visitors had gone home and the hospital had settled into its quiet night routine, William pulled his chair as close to Kate's bed as possible. She was awake but drowsy, her eyes closing and opening slowly as she fought against exhaustion. "I have so much to tell you," William said softly, stroking her hair, "about all the people who have been praying for you, about your students who never stopped believing you'd come back, about the puppy I adopted who's waiting to meet you. But all of that can wait. Right now, I just want you to rest and get stronger." Kate's eyes focused on his face with effort, and she managed to whisper, "Stay. Always," William promised immediately. "I'm not going anywhere, Kate. I'll be right here when you wake up tomorrow and the day after that, and every day for the rest of our lives." As Kate's breathing settled into the deeper rhythm of natural sleep, William felt a peace he hadn't experienced in 7 months. The long nightmare was finally ending, and their real life together could begin again. There would be challenges ahead, weeks or months of rehabilitation and recovery, but Kate was back. She was awake, she remembered him, and she was going to be okay. William watched over her as she slept, marveling at the miracle of her open and closed eyes, the rise and fall of her chest that now seemed purposeful rather than automatic. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new milestones in Kate's recovery. But tonight, for the first time since the accident, William allowed himself to believe in their future again. The engagement ring still waited in his apartment, but William was no longer in a hurry. They had the rest of their lives to plan their wedding, to build their dreams together, to create the family they had always wanted. The most important thing had already happened. Kate had come back to him, and nothing else mattered more than that simple, beautiful fact. 2 weeks after Kate woke up, the rehabilitation center buzzed with activity. Kate had been transferred from the intensive care unit to a specialized brain injury recovery facility, where she could receive intensive therapy while still having access to medical care. William had barely left her side during the transition, helping her adjust to the new environment and advocating for her needs. Kate's progress was remarkable, though not without challenges. Her memory was patchy, like a puzzle with some pieces missing and others perfectly clear. She remembered William, her parents, and Sarah without difficulty, but struggled to recall the months leading up to the accident. Her voice had grown stronger, though she still tired easily and sometimes searched for words that seemed to hover just out of reach. The speech therapist says this is completely normal, William explained to Kate's parents during one of their daily family meetings. Her brain is rewiring itself, creating new pathways around the damaged areas. Some memories may come back fully, others might remain fuzzy. But what matters is that she's improving every day. Kate's personality was emerging more clearly as her strength returned. She was frustrated by her physical limitations but determined to overcome them. The Kate that William had fallen in love with, the woman who faced challenges with humor and stubborn optimism, was definitely still there underneath the fatigue and confusion. "I feel like I'm made of jelly," Kate complained to Maria during a physical therapy session, attempting to stand with the support of parallel bars. Her legs shook with the effort, but she refused to sit down. "How long before I can walk normally again?" "Everyone recovers at their own pace," Maria replied encouragingly. "Some patients take months, others surprise us and improve much faster. Your determination is your biggest asset. Kate, that fighting spirit is going to carry you through this." William marveled at Kate's courage as she worked through exercises that would have been effortless before the accident but now required tremendous concentration and effort. She practiced walking, climbing stairs, and performing simple tasks like buttoning shirts and writing her name. Each small victory was celebrated by the entire medical team. The occupational therapist, David, worked with Kate on cognitive exercises designed to strengthen her memory and problem-solving skills. She would complete puzzles, practice following multi-step instructions, and work on tasks that required sustained attention. Some days were easier than others, and William learned to recognize when Kate needed encouragement versus when she needed space to work through frustration on her own. "I used to be smart," Kate said one afternoon after struggling with a memory exercise that involved organizing playing cards by suit and number. "I was a teacher. I helped children learn things. Now I can't even remember what I had for breakfast." William took her hands gently and looked into her eyes. "You are still smart, Kate. Your brain went through trauma and it's healing. The doctors say that being a teacher actually helps your recovery, because you're used to breaking complex information into smaller parts. You're going to get better at this just like you got better at walking." The visits from Kate's students were carefully scheduled and monitored, but they brought her more joy than any medical treatment. The children had made her a video compilation of their progress, showing off reading achievements and art projects they had completed while she was in the hospital. Kate cried happy tears as she watched 7-year-old Emma read an entire chapter book aloud. "Miss Kate," Emma said in the video, holding up a drawing of a rainbow. "I learned to read chapter books just like you said I could. I'm saving them all to read to you when you come back to school. Mrs. Henderson is nice, but she doesn't make reading as fun as you do." Kate's principal had visited to assure her that her teaching position would be waiting whenever she felt ready to return. The school had hired a permanent substitute teacher for the remainder of the year, but Kate's classroom remained essentially unchanged, waiting for her return. "There's no pressure," Principal Johnson explained during his visit. "Take all the time you need to recover fully. The children ask about you every day, and we all believe you'll be back when you're ready. Your job is to focus on getting well." The hardest part of Kate's recovery was the emotional adjustment. She would sometimes wake up confused about where she was or why she felt so weak. There were moments of panic when she couldn't remember something that seemed important, and periods of sadness when the reality of how much time she had lost became overwhelming. "I missed 7 months of our life," Kate said to William one evening as they sat together in her room. 7 months of memories we should have made together. I missed your birthday, holidays, all those ordinary days that matter so much." William chose his words carefully, knowing that Kate needed both comfort and honesty. "Those 7 months weren't lost, Kate. They were different than we planned, but they weren't lost. I learned how strong love can be, how much you mean to me, how many people care about you. You fought the biggest battle of your life and won. When we're old and gray, I'm going to be proud to tell our grandchildren about how brave their grandmother was." Kate's friend Sarah had arranged for a surprise that brought back one of Kate's brightest smiles. She brought Kate's laptop and showed her all the messages, emails, and social media posts from friends, former students, and even strangers who had heard their story. The outpouring of support was overwhelming. "Look at this," Sarah said, scrolling through hundreds of messages. "This one is from a student you taught 5 years ago. She's in middle school now. And she wrote about how you inspired her to become a teacher, too. And this one is from a mom whose son you helped with his reading difficulties. She says he still talks about you all the time." Kate was amazed by the reach of love and support that had surrounded her during her recovery. People she barely remembered had sent cards, prayers, and encouragement. Teachers from other schools had shared stories about how Kate's teaching methods had influenced their own classrooms. As Kate's third week in rehabilitation began, Dr. Martinez delivered news that filled everyone with hope. Kate's latest brain scans showed remarkable healing, with swelling completely gone and neural activity returning to near-normal patterns in most areas. "Your brain has done an incredible job of healing itself," Dr. Martinez explained. "The areas that were damaged have found new ways to function, and your cognitive tests are improving steadily. I'm optimistic that you'll be able to return to teaching, though we'll want to take that transition slowly." That evening, William decided it was time to share something he had been saving for the right moment. He pulled out the notebook where he had written daily letters to Kate during her coma, documenting every visitor, every small sign of progress, every moment of hope and fear he had experienced. "I wrote to you every day," William explained, his voice thick with emotion. "I wanted you to know everything that happened while you were fighting to come back to us. You don't have to read it all now, but whenever you're ready, our story is here." Kate took the notebook with trembling hands and opened to the first page. William's familiar handwriting filled the pages, and she could see tear stains on some of the entries. As she read about the first day after her accident, about William's promise to never leave her side, about all the people who had prayed for her recovery, Kate began to understand just how much love had surrounded her even in her darkest hours. "You really never left," Kate whispered, looking up at William with wonder in her eyes. "Never," William confirmed, "and I never will. We have a whole life to build together, Kate. We have a wedding to plan, a future to create, and a puppy named Hope who's very excited to meet you. When you're ready, we'll go home and start the next chapter of our story." As Kate fell asleep that night, the notebook clasped against her chest, William felt grateful for every day of the long journey that had brought them to this moment. The road ahead would still have challenges, but they would face them together, stronger than ever because of what they had survived. 6 months after Kate woke up, the autumn leaves painted the world in brilliant reds and golds outside their apartment window. Kate stood at the kitchen counter, slowly stirring a pot of soup, humming softly to herself. The simple act of cooking had become one of her favorite parts of recovery, a return to the normal rhythms of life that she had missed so desperately during her long months in hospitals and rehabilitation centers. William watched her from the doorway, marveling at how natural she looked performing this everyday task. Kate had come home 3 months ago, and every day brought small victories and moments of pure joy. Her walking was steady now, her speech clear and strong, and most importantly, her laugh had returned in full force. "That smells amazing," William said, moving to wrap his arms around her from behind. "What's the secret ingredient?" Kate leaned back against his chest and smiled. "Love and gratitude," she said simply. "Those make everything taste better." Hope, their golden retriever puppy who was no longer quite so small, padded into the kitchen and sat hopefully beside the stove. Kate had fallen in love with the dog immediately upon meeting her, declaring that any creature named Hope was obviously meant to be part of their family. "No table scraps for you, young lady," Kate said firmly to Hope, though she couldn't keep the smile out of her voice. "William spoils you enough already." The transition back to their normal life had been gradual and sometimes challenging. Kate tired more easily than before and occasionally struggled with complex tasks that required sustained concentration. But her determination and William's unwavering support had carried them through the difficult moments. Kate had returned to teaching just 2 weeks ago, starting with half days to ease back into the demands of managing a classroom full of energetic second graders. The children had welcomed her back with a celebration that brought tears to everyone's eyes, including hardened teachers who claimed they never cried at school. "Miss Kate, you're really back," Emma had shouted, throwing her arms around Kate's waist. "I saved all my best drawings for you, and I can read chapter books now, just like you said I would." The joy on the children's faces had confirmed what Kate already knew. Teaching wasn't just her job, it was her calling. The accident and recovery had only strengthened her appreciation for the privilege of shaping young minds and hearts. Dr. Martinez had been amazed by Kate's progress during her most recent checkup. The brain scans showed continued healing, and Kate's cognitive function tests were now within normal ranges across all areas. There were still some gaps in her memory from the months before the accident, but her ability to form new memories was completely intact. "You're a medical success story," Dr. Martinez had told them. "Your recovery exceeded our most optimistic projections. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." What they were doing was building a life filled with intention and gratitude. Every ordinary moment felt precious to them now, from morning coffee together to evening walks with Hope through their neighborhood. They had learned not to take anything for granted, especially each other. The engagement ring William had bought so many months ago finally found its purpose on a crisp October evening. He had planned something simple and perfect, just the two of them and Hope in the park where they had shared their first picnic. Kate said yes before he even finished asking the question, tears streaming down her face as she threw her arms around his neck. "I already said yes in my heart a long time ago," Kate told him as he slipped the ring onto her finger. "The accident didn't change how much I want to spend my life with you. If anything, it made me more certain." Their wedding planning was joyful and unhurried. They had learned that the destination mattered less than the journey, and they wanted to savor every moment of preparing for their future together. Sarah was ecstatic to finally serve as maid of honor, and Marcus had started writing his best man speech months in advance. "I want the ceremony to acknowledge everything we've been through," Kate told the wedding planner during one of their meetings. "Not in a sad way, but in a way that celebrates how we've grown stronger together. I want to thank all the people who supported us during the hardest time of our lives." The guest list included many people who had become family during Kate's recovery. Dr. Martinez and several nurses from the hospital, Maria the physical therapist, Kate's students and their families, and even Mrs. Chen from the flower shop who had provided fresh flowers for Kate's hospital room every week. Kate had started keeping a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things she was thankful for each day. The entries ranged from major milestones like returning to work to tiny moments like the taste of morning coffee or the feeling of Hope's soft fur under her fingers. "I almost lost everything," Kate confided to Sarah during one of their weekly coffee dates. "Not just my life, but my memories, my abilities, my sense of who I was. Coming back from that has given me a perspective I never had before. I don't waste time on things that don't matter anymore." William had his own insights from their journey. The months of uncertainty had taught him about the difference between love as a feeling and love as a choice. When Kate was unconscious, he couldn't feel her love in return, but he chose to love her anyway, day after day, without guarantee of reward. "I used to think love was about the happy times," William explained to his father during one of their regular phone calls. "The laughter, the shared dreams, the easy moments. But real love is what you do during the impossible times, when everything seems lost but you refuse to give up." Kate's parents had become even more precious to them both. The crisis had brought the families closer together, creating bonds forged in the crucible of shared fear and hope. Linda called every Sunday not out of worry anymore, but out of pure joy in hearing her daughter's voice. Robert had started a tradition of sending Kate articles about educational innovations, supporting her passion for teaching in his quiet way. The 1-year anniversary of the accident arrived on a rainy November day. Instead of treating it as a sad remembrance, Kate and William decided to celebrate it as their second beginning day. They visited the rehabilitation center to thank the staff and share Kate's continued progress, then spent the evening at home with Hope, cooking dinner together and talking about their dreams for the future. "I keep thinking about something Dr. Martinez said," Kate mused as they cleaned dishes side by side. "She told me that some patients see their brain injury as the worst thing that ever happened to them, while others see it as the thing that taught them how to really live. I definitely fall into the second category." William dried the last plate and pulled Kate into his arms for a slow dance to the music playing softly from their stereo. As they swayed together in their kitchen, Hope watching contentedly from her bed nearby, William marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. The Kate in his arms was the same woman he had fallen in love with 3 years ago, but she was also transformed by what they had endured together. She was more patient, more appreciative of simple pleasures, more aware of the fragility and preciousness of life. The accident had tried to steal their future, but instead it had shown them how much they truly meant to each other. "I love you," William whispered into Kate's hair as they danced. "I loved you when you were sleeping, I love you now that you're awake, and I'll love you for every day of whatever comes next." Kate looked up at him with eyes bright with tears and joy. "When you stepped through that hospital room door every morning for 7 months, you brought hope with you. You never let me face the darkness alone. Even when I couldn't tell you, I knew you were there. That's the kind of love that changes everything." As the song ended and they stood holding each other in their small kitchen, William knew that their story wasn't ending, but truly beginning. They had survived the unthinkable and emerged stronger, more grateful and more deeply in love than ever before. Whatever challenges the future might bring, they would face them together, armed with the knowledge that their love could overcome anything. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the world clean and preparing it for whatever beauty tomorrow might bring.